The Chat Show.
Hey guys, welcome to this week's mini-sode. Probably my most favorite mini-sode that I've been super excited to record. This week we are looking at why we say the things we say. What do I mean by that? You know those like weird little like catchphrases we say that like you don't even think about? Like, do you ever just wonder why you say them? Like, where did they come from? So, like, have you ever just wondered, like, okay, let me give you an example. Like, something happened to go, oh, well, she let the cat out of the bag, didn't she? She's going to get sacked for that one. Do you ever just stop and think, like, what bag? What cat? Is she going to be given a sack for letting a cat out of a physical bag? No? You don't think about these things? I think about them all the time. All the time. Maybe because I'm British and here in England we have all the catchphrases in the world. I feel like most of our vocabulary is made up of catchphrases. So my goal in today's minisode is to combine some universal sayings and explain some of them to everyone, because as I said, like, we British, we have a lot of things that we say and a lot of them are so ridiculous and their meanings are just even more so. And I'm also going to go over some Americans for all my wonderful, amazing American listeners, because I know there's quite a few of you, American and Canadian. Holla! Thank you so much. So, let's go back to my first little thing that I've said. Letting the cat out of the bag. Okay, so this is actually an old saying. It's derived from the days when people who sold piglets in bags sometimes put a cat in the bag instead. And if you let the cat out of the bag, you expose their trick. So that is where letting the cat out of the bag has come from. I personally feel like maybe I prefer to have like a letting the pig out the bag. Although I hope these piglets like weren't alive, but I'm assuming that in ye olde England they probably were. But piglets in a bag. Okay. Getting the sack. Another one. Now, this is something I'm not 100% sure that they say in the US and or Canada. I think this is very much an English saying. But getting the sack comes from the days when workmen carried their tools in sacks. And if your employer gave you the sack, it meant that it was time to collect your tools and go. I mean, pretty much the same as now, right? If you get the sack, it's pretty much like, rather than giving a physical sack, you're just given a box and told to like clear out. So, not too different. I've got some super great ones today, and I'm gonna try and like come up with like really fun little sayings, just to like put them into context. So I've actually written a whole list of ones that I just think are just too great. So this is definitely one for my American friends. Peeping Tom. You'd be like, oh, he's a peeping Tom. Would you say it like that? I don't know. I don't know if you say it. So anyway, here's a little blurb on the term peeping Tom. According to a legend, a man named Leofric taxed the people of Coventry, see English, there we go, heavily. His wife, Lady Godiva, begged him not to. Good woman, good woman. Leofric said he would end the tax if she rode through the streets of Coventry naked. So she did. Oh, women, the things we did for our men. Anyway, so Peeping Tom is a much later addition to this story. It was said that everybody in Coventry was supposed to stay indoors with their shutters closed to not see his wife. However, a peeping Tom, literally a man named Tom, who was peeping, had a sneaky look at Godiva and was struck blind. Savage. So basically, if you're like a bit of a perv, that doesn't happen anymore, really, does it? You don't suddenly get like immediate blindness. But this man Tom had a cheeky look, and voila, gone with his vision forever. So what is the moral of this story? Is don't make your wife ride down the street naked on a horse, because it might cause someone blindness. Is that the moral of the story? I don't know. Maybe. Or maybe just like don't peek at naked people on horses. I'm sure there's many morals to this story, but anyway, that's where the term peeping Tom came from. So God bless Tom, who no longer has his vision. I don't blame him. Maybe Godiva was an absolute babe and he just had to like have a look, you know, but anyway. Potluck. This is another one from my Americanos. Although maybe we say it in England, not too much. But anyway, I always wondered like where the whole potluck came from. And actually, I always just thought of a pot roast every time I said potluck. And they are in no way connected. So I feel like I should just throw that out there. But I guess like in the past, all kinds of food went into a big pot for cooking. This was back in the day. And if you sat down to a meal with your family, you often had to take a potluck, as you could never be quite sure what you were going to be served. Maybe it was the piglets from the bag that should have been cats, or the cats from the bag that should have been piglets. Potluck. I can only imagine back in the day how terrifying that could be. Next one that I also really like is rubbing salt into a wound. Now this is something that I feel is just, you know, someone offends you and you're like, just rubbing salt into that wound. And actually I feel like the visual of rubbing salt into a wound is already painful. Don't you think? Like, imagine it. Like, I don't want to go into details or be too, you know, graphic, but like the sheer term is upsetting, to me at least. But apparently this term is derived from the days when we used to actually rub salt into wounds as antiseptic. You know, the more we progress as a first world country, the more I'm so grateful for modern medicine, because no. Salt, no. I can't even. Just think about it. Instead, as an antiseptic, I just can't. Actually, I know so many things on this about like things we used to do before anesthesia, and honestly, it hurts my heart. But anyway, have you ever found that, like, you know, when you're setting up something, you always kind of go rule of thumb, is this what we're going to do? And you always wondered, why am I ruling something with my thumb? No? I always think this. I always think, why my thumb? My thumbs are pretty short. I mean, not like super short, but you know. But apparently this term comes from the days when craftsmen used to use their thumbs for making rough measurements. It's a pretty good one, no? I feel, although I don't really know how long my thumb is, so maybe you need to actually know the length of your thumb prior to measuring something, and then you can be like, aha, 5 centimeters, you know, because if you don't know how long your thumb is, then ultimately what are you measuring? You're just like doing like many thumbs. If someone knows the answer to that, feel free to drop me a little DM on the old Instagrams, on the YouTubes, and let me know if they literally did measure stuff with their thumbs, and if it, like, I mean, imagine measuring like a whole door with your thumbs. I feel like that would take you forever. Anyway, getting away scot-free. I always wondered who was Scott, but apparently it has nothing to do with Scott, and it has nothing to do with Scotland either, which I never put 2 and 2 together, but okay, whatever. So apparently back in the day, Scot was an old word for payment. So if you went scot-free, it literally meant you went without paying. Is that maybe, so now every time you meet someone with the name Scott, you're just going to think his name means money? Maybe? Is that maybe where the name Scott came from? Because they just like the word. Who knows? I don't know. So there you go. Getting away scot-free is you went without paying. How about when someone shows you their true colors? I see your true colors shining through. You're so welcome for that. That was for free. My music career is launching soon. Anyway, this one was the most exciting to me because I am a massive fan of pirates. And apparently, this term of showing your true colors was derived from the pirates and the pirate ships. As when they would approach their intended victim, they would show false flags to lure them into a false sense of security. And obviously, when it was too late for the victim to escape, they would show their true colors, which was the Jolly Roger. Maybe I should look up why they named it the Jolly Roger as well, because that's a really interesting one too, I feel. If anyone knows the Jolly Roger story, also holler at me. That would be cool to know. Washing my hands of them. The Roman governor, I'm actually reading this part because I couldn't remember the name, but Pontius Pilate, it looks like Pilate, so I'm going to say Pilate, refused to be involved in the death of an innocent person. Jesus was the innocent person, just FYI. So he washed his hands in front of the crowd, symbolically to disassociate himself from the execution. Huh. That's cool. So basically, you're just saying that, like, gonna wash these old bad boys. Not involved. Although washing his hands and not being involved in Jesus is, I mean, he could have helped Jesus, but hey, whatever. Biting the bullet. I feel like this is probably something I haven't said in a really long time, but you know, sometimes you gotta bite that bullet and just get on with it. So this saying, which I thought was really fascinating, was back in the day again, when you're about to undergo an operation, because like a lot of the time we didn't have anesthesia, you were awake for a lot of your operations, which is why operations were always like the last ditch attempt effort of anything. You generally wanted to live through most things. So apparently back in the day, if a soldier was about to undergo an operation, he was literally given a bullet to bite, which, looking at like the British history of like dental care, I couldn't imagine why you would give someone a metal bullet to bite on when, like, I feel like just the British nation like are known for not having great teeth, and like I don't know where that would have come from. So I'm gonna hope that maybe the Americans came up with this one, because you know, maybe Americans have better teeth than we did. Maybe not. But why bite a bullet? Maybe a piece of wood. It's got a bit of give, you know, but not like a fit. Anyway, I digress. I could go on for days. Touching wood. You would have heard me doing that a lot today. I love a bit of touching wood. I was going to say I'm a bit of a pessimist. That's not what I meant. Not a skeptic either. I've now lost the word that I wanted to say. Oh, when you're superstitious. Yep, superstitious. Superstitious. So, I generally like to say, you know, knock on wood, touch wood. Generally, you never even find any wood anymore, but you're touching something, saying touch wood. So in the Celtic times, people believed that spirits, or benevolent spirits even, lived in trees. And when in trouble, they would knock on the trees and ask the spirits for help. Bruv. This is what I'm going to do now, forever. Now, when I get stuck, I'm in a pickle. I should look up in a pickle too. That didn't come up. I couldn't find that one. I'm so going to knock on something and be like, yo, homie, spirit homie, I need your advice and assistance, and see what comes back. I mean, I work in a gym, so maybe like one day like the barbells will speak to me and they will give me like some kind of advice, which would be great. Maybe I could speak to my barbell beforehand and be like, yo, babes, today's max out day, and I'd really appreciate if you can tell me how you're feeling, and is it going to happen? Can you tell me? And they would reply, and we would have a conversation, and it would be like, I got you. I got you, my sister. We're going to go. Maybe. Touching wood. Touch something and speak to it. Ask the spirits. So last but not least, my absolute, I learned this the other day. I actually went on a walking tour of a really famous graveyards in England. If you ever want to go, you should definitely go. Highgate Cemetery. It's one of the oldest Victorian cemeteries in London. It's got some amazingly famous people buried there, and it also has a lot of skeletons in there and coffins that you get to see. Very, very exciting for my little emo heart. But anyway, I learned this one, which I thought was mind-blowing. And it's something that, like, in England, we say a lot. And we generally tend to say, like, oh, I'm so knackered. And generally, like, I would consider knackered to kind of be another word for, like, being really tired. But apparently the origin of this word comes from back in the day when we all used to ride horses. When your horse or your animal basically got really old or was like just considered like super unfit, it would get taken to a knacker's yard, which is where it would be slaughtered, and their meat would basically be used to, well, the idea was if you couldn't eat your animal, you would take it to the knacker's yard and they would slaughter your animal for you, and they would turn your animal meat into dog food or maybe glue or something fascinating like that. Because I guess back in the day, if your horse got old and died, you'd just eat it. I mean, not now, obviously, but you know, that was. So anyway, that blew my mind when I learned that about knackered. And now I just feel like when you say I feel knackered, you need to think of yourself as one of these old horses being led to their demise. Because that's where it came from, which I just think is so great. I love learning things like this. So yeah, these are just some of my top 10. Did I do more than 10? I can't even remember. I got so excited. I just started writing down so many, and I was like, oh my god, fascinating. I love it. I hope that maybe you took something away from these little nuggets of joy that I've got. I personally love learning stuff like that, and this is why I wanted to do all these little mini-sodes, which is just like the really fun things that I like learning about, because, you know, there's more to life than the gym sometimes, and it's fun. I am definitely going to put my references in the mini-sode description box. If you want to go and have a look at more of them, by all means, please do. Otherwise, if you enjoyed today's mini-sode, I'd love it if you give a little like, give us a little follow, give us a share. I'm working on having a little donations button on all my social platforms as well. So if you're liking the chat show, I would love it if you could donate, help a sister out so I can get more going on. Full videos on my YouTube page under the same name, Lifting with Leo, the chat show. Otherwise, pop by my Instagram, say hi, let me know what you thought, because I'm all about the feedback. You'll probably notice that each episode, mini-sode, is done and sounds slightly different. I generally have to kind of move around whilst I do this, so it's, you know, a bit exciting. But yeah, you can check out my Instagram page, which is at LatsLikeLeo. That's LatsLikeLeo. Pop by and say hi. Otherwise, guys, you know, I've got another interview coming out. I'm super, super excited for my next interviews. I've got so many great people lined up. I just wish I could, like, throw them all at you at once, but obviously I can't. But anyway, shut up, Leo. Let's get to the end of this. Cool. Thanks so much, guys, for listening to today's mini-sode of why we say the things we say. I hope you learned something. Like I said, feel free to drop me some comments or holler back at some of the things that you find that you say as well. Until next time, guys. Bye.